All right, guys. It's Boyle Taco Phil. I haven't done a video in a minute. I've been super busy. Been ramping up my whole pilot thing. So today, I actually just got my aviation first class medical certificate. So I wanted to talk about a couple questions that people have given me about driving for Greyhound or driving for any bus or commercial company, and that a lot of people are concerned about medical. So first and foremost, don't be concerned about medical. Uh, Medical can seem like it's very, you know, um, very problematic, because people don't always consider themselves to be in peak physical fitness, and they think that contributes to being poor health. Not necessarily. We've had plenty of individuals who were obese who went and got their medical no problem. So one of the biggest problems that people have with medical is actually high blood pressure. So if you have a history of high blood pressure, there are ways to reduce your blood pressure. There are ways to bring that down so that you can pass the medical. Um, yeah, there's only, yeah, when I think about it, there's only like two things that will really fail you. Well, I don't even say two, three. There's three things that will fail you pretty quickly on medical: high blood pressure, uh, drugs in your system, and not being able to see. Yeah, like I wear glasses, so you have to be able to see 20/20 correctable, or a minimum I think of like 20/40 correctable. If you can't see less than 20/40, if you can't see anything less, if you can't see 20/40 or less or more, I should say, if you can't see 20/40 or 20/20 with corrected vision or without corrected vision, you're not going to get a medical. You should probably be wearing glasses if you're having a hard time seeing, because they want you to be able to read state signs, interstate signs, and all that good stuff. Um, and then the blood pressure. Yeah, typically, even with the blood pressure, I'll see guys who have high blood pressure, and they'll fail the medical, and then they'll go back and redo it, and then they'll get in. There are plenty of ways to fix your blood pressure, and there's plenty of ways. The only thing is, if you're taking medication, your medication has to be approved in order to get your Department of Transportation federal medical certificate. So if you're taking any medication that typically makes you drowsy or anything like that, then you're not going to get approved. So be careful with your medications. Um, if you're in the process of being hired by Greyhound, what they'll do is you'll typically get cleared to go do your medical, because they pay for your medical after you clear your background check. So you will do the initial interview. You'll submit your DMV record, and you'll get your background investigation. The background, depending on your background, can take anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. Um, and then once that's cleared, they'll send you to go get your medical. Obviously, if you're coming from another company and you have an up to date medical, then you don't have to worry about that. But if you're new to driving, um, you have to get your medical done and your learner's permit prior to starting the training process. And this is for any commercial driver's license. In order to get your learner's permit, you need to get your medical. So you take your medical and you pass your test, and then you go to the you go to the DMV and you submit your medical to them as well as the company, and then you can get your learner's permit and you can get your you can start driving. Um, it's not that big a deal, honestly. It's not that big a deal at all. I would say, people worry about obesity. Obesity is not that big of a factor. I've seen plenty of people who are well over, well over, 30, 40 on their BMI. Correct my camera here. They're well over 30, 40 of their BMI, um, and they still were able to pass their medical because they didn't have super high blood pressure. I've actually seen guys who were skinny, and they just had high blood pressure for some reason. They could not pass the medical. So don't worry about your weight so much. Um, if you're a smoker, it is a factor, but it's not a disqualifying factor. It's more like if you are quitting and you're taking certain medications, that they'll look at that, what kind of medications you're taking. Things like caffeine, alcohol intake, not a huge factor. You can drink, you just can't drink and drive. Now, if you're in a state like California where you can legally smoke marijuana, DMV, because the DMV Medical is a federal certification, not a state certification. So, because it's federal, you can't smoke marijuana. And if you're applying for, I think most transportation companies, and I believe Greyhound is the same thing, you can't smoke marijuana or have that in your system. And I think they don't want you to be, I think you can't have it within a year or something like that. I think in 6 months or a year, you couldn't have smoked marijuana. And it can't be present in your system when you go get your medical, and it definitely can't be present in your system when you drive. If you drive and you get into an accident, you immediately go get a medical exam, and if marijuana is present in your system, you fail the medical exam. So I wouldn't worry about it, to be honest. If you're safe enough to drive your car, you're safe enough to drive a motorcycle, and you're not taking any medications that's going to make you fall asleep behind the wheel, and you don't have crazy super hypertension, medical's not that big a deal. I wouldn't worry about it too much. So don't be scared about it. Don't get nervous. It's a really basic exam. They have basic vision, basic hearing. They listen to your heart, listen to your lungs. They do your blood pressure, basic drug test. That's it. It's nothing major. They don't even draw blood. They don't do, any major invasive deals. So don't worry about medical. Don't stress about it. If you guys have any follow-up questions, leave it down in the comments. I'll try to answer them the best I can. So when you get your medical, your medical is only good for a maximum of 2 years. So every 2 years you have to renew your medical. And if you have prior conditions such as high blood pressure or you're taking medication, they can actually reduce that time. So we had a gentleman that was with me when I went to go get my medical, and he was relatively overweight and his blood pressure was borderline. So because his blood pressure was borderline, it was still acceptable, but they made it to where he was only he had to renew it every 1 year. I think you can get as low as 6 months, and I think 6 months is only if you start a new medication regimen or something like that, and then they want to have you monitored. But typically, if you're in good health, 2 years. And the requirements don't change by age. So if you're 60 years old and you're in good condition, you're in good health, still 2 years. If you're 20 something years old and you have high blood pressure and you're taking medication regulated that is approved, it could be 1 year. So that's about it as far as medical goes. I wouldn't worry about it. Most companies will pay for medical, like Greyhound pays for medical, once you have your conditional job offer. I know a lot of metro companies, they pay for it. Also be aware that because you are a commercial driver and you're working for a company like Greyhound, Metro, wherever, you are subject to random urinalysis and random drug tests under commercials. And if you pop on any of those, they can take your commercial driver's license. If you get a DUI while driving a commercial vehicle, forget it. Your license is going to be gone for a minute. You'd be lucky if you could even get hired within another next 10 years or so for most companies as a with a DUI. So just don't do it. Don't risk your license. If you get into an accident, you speed, that's not a big deal. They don't care about all that. But they're very strict on the medical, very strict on maintaining your medical, and very strict on DUIs. So don't get any DUIs. Don't mess around with it. Don't risk your license, because it'll mess you up. It'll mess you up big time. All right. So if you guys got any questions, leave comments down in the comment section. I'll try and cover some more topics. I had a couple updates in my life. Been doing some other stuff. Real close to doing my solo. And so once you start doing your solos for your private pilot's license, you're literally just another 10, 15 hours away from getting your private pilot's license. And I'm trying to go all the way to commercial, trying to transition away from driving buses to flying airplanes commercially. It's going to be a long journey. It's an expensive journey. And thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching my videos. And again, leave questions. I'll try to answer what I can. It's your boy Taco Phil. Talk to you later.